This is Ray.
This is Andy.
And this is FDS CFL Season 3, Andy, Episode 17.
Episode 17 and Week 15 is in the books.
Week 15. It always throws me off.
I know.
When it's Episode 17 and Week 15.
We'll fix that next season somehow. All right. Yeah. Before we get into the recaps of the games, let's talk about our sponsors. If you need yourself a beer, like Ray has right here, make it a Moose Light. Why?
Because Moose Light is scary good.
It is. Isn't it weird? You having a Moose Light on set and not me.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, that's very strange. That's very strange. If you need a hat or a shirt and it has logos on it like this, go see our buddies, the Doyles at Doyle Corporate Image.
Because the Doyles rule.
The Doyles do rule. All right, let's recap the games. The first game of the week, we had Calgary visiting Toronto. Calgary dominated the first half. And just managed to hold on at that point. Ron Burgundy, our guy, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, was replaced by James Franklin, who had an impact right away, but there was simply not enough time. It was a real tough night for McLeod Bethel-Thompson at this point, especially they were highlighting. I got to see some of this game. I was back from camping, and they were kind of highlighting how, he's turned it around and he's taken over this team and the things that he said, and he really had a rough one. Calgary takes the game 23-16.
They got out to a good lead right off the get-go, Calgary.
Oh, yeah.
And then they kind of died in the second half. They weren't as strong in the second half. But, when Franklin replaced Thompson, he came in through for 147 yards and a touchdown, went 75% passing completion, Andy.
Yep.
I was really impressed with him.
We'll see. We've seen him play well in flashes before. I don't know if it's been announced if he's going to start the next game or not. We'll see. But, he's got to prove it that he can do it for an entire game. Yeah. All right. Hamilton visiting Edmonton. The Ticats dominated this one early. A very similar story to the Calgary-Toronto game. And they somehow survived a 24-point comeback.
Yeah.
There was a last-second field goal to win the game. Now, but Hamilton takes this 30-27. I got a comment from one of your buddies, Mike Shoesmith from from the CFL groups. Yeah. He loves to give you some grief about your power rankings, so on. But Mike's getting a little frustrated with his Hamilton Ticats. Mike loves power rankings, and he feels like the Hamilton Ticats just continue to just do enough to beat teams, so they won't get too much credit. Let's hope Mike's right. I mean, I think at this point, Hamilton is getting just enough credit at this point with their with Dane Evans and what he's been able to pull off, and the fact that they've been able to stay in it. The reason why we'll get to the power rankings a little later, but I think here's the difference between Hamilton and Calgary. Hamilton started out with the reigning most outstanding player of the league at their quarterback and lost him for the entire season. Calgary lost their quarterback, who was arguably the best quarterback in the entire league, early. Held on to a good record, and now they got him back. Yeah. So it's two different things altogether. What'd you think of that game?
Well, listen, same thing. Kilgore really impressed me with his comeback. Yep. 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's what hurt him in the first half, though. Evans, 336 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, my biggest question about Evans, and we talked about this briefly last week, I believe, and that's Mazzoli. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen next year? Do they bring Mazzoli back?
Yeah.
Or do they let him go and stick with the kid?
I think it's too early to say. I mean, if Evans can somehow sustain this and keep the team winning and they go deep into the playoffs, and dare I even say win it all, I think there's a big conversation to be had. That said, if the season ended today, I think it's Mazzoli's job hands down without even a question when he comes back. That's how I feel about that one.
Okay.
The game of the week, and I did get a chance to see some of this one, Winnipeg at Montreal. Vernon Adams led the Owls to 21 unanswered points, which included a 94-yard drive in the final minute. This is the biggest comeback in franchise history. Montreal ends up beating Winnipeg at home 38-37. Exciting game, crazy outcome. Talk to me about the game.
I reffed the Acadia Mount A University game down in Wolfville, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And our game ended at 5 o'clock our time. after our post game, I got over to a little pub called Joe's. It was called Joe's Pub in Wolfville.
Yeah.
The place was packed, all Acadia fans, and they had this game on every TV in the bar, and it was very entertaining. Winnipeg was up big at the time that I got there. I can't remember what the score was, but watching Adams come back in this game, it was exciting.
Yeah.
It was a really good game, and like you mentioned earlier, or late in the game, Winnipeg kicks a field goal, hit the upright, and then Montreal marched down the field 94 yards to take the lead in this game.
Huge.
It was a really exciting game, and in this little tavern of the people that are watching it, I don't even know if they're all CFL fans, but it was the pub was pretty buzzed with what was going on in this football game.
100%. Well, there was some positive fireworks in this game and some negative fireworks that we'll get into a little later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fourth game of the week is just BC again confirming that Ottawa is horrible. BC travels to Ottawa at this point and takes them 40-7. There was a safety conceded, a couple of rouges and a field goal. That's really all that Ottawa could muster. Jennings had only 16 yards passing in the first half. I mean, the sad gets sadder.
My buddy Dron Carter catches another touchdown.
Yeah.
That's 2 games in a row for him. BC put up a total of 540 yards offense compared to Ottawa's 267, Andy.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. And I'm wearing my Ottawa colors tonight because Ottawa was the first team I fell in love with since we started covering the CFL. And I'll talk about Ottawa in a few minutes here.
Talking too much Ottawa talk makes me wish I had my Moose Light to go with the show as usual.
Yeah.
But that's all right. I'm going to power through it. Let's move on. What are your take it and leave it this week?
My take it this week is James Franklin.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when he came into
is that the take it or the leave?
That's my take it.
Got it.
Again, we just talked about the stats: 147 yards and a touchdown. But when he also led the team to 2 field goals as well. Mm-hmm. But he definitely gave this offense a spark. You could see it in the players. You could see it, in the energy of the game. It definitely was a momentum changer, and he definitely has made a case to start in Ottawa or in Toronto's next game.
Oh yeah, 100%. I hope he does. I hope he does, because I'd like to see if he can sustain that. So
that's my take it.
Yeah. What are you leaving this week?
I am leaving the entire front office of the Ottawa Redblacks.
Okay. All right.
I'm a Redblacks guy. I don't take this personal because I fell in love with the Redblacks first. Rick Campbell, he's in a tough situation, but he has completely lost this team.
Yeah.
Completely lost this team. Marcel Desjardins, who is the GM.
Yeah.
The off-season moves these guys made and the off-season moves that they let walk out the door, they are now a 3-10 record. These guys went to the Grey Cup in 2018.
They're not even as good as 3-10.
This is not a rebuild season, Andy.
No.
This is a complete train wreck.
I don't know what they were thinking. You don't let a guy like Trevor Harris, who wants to be there, walk out the door unless you have a better option. You didn't. It
was a terrible offseason. Now, this is the CFL, Andy.
Yeah.
But if this was the XFL, do you know what these 2 boys would be hearing?
What?
You're fired.
Oh, good one. That's a good Vince McMahon. I like that.
That's my leave it.
All right. Let's talk power rankings really quick. We released those yesterday. It was an interesting week, and it caused a lot of conversation, as well as us, our thought process being thrown off a little bit at the top. I'm keeping Calgary at the top. I mean, they didn't look great in beating Toronto, but still, they won. They've got Bo Levi Mitchell back. 9-4 record. Calgary stays at the top. Now, with Hamilton's win, I moved them up into number 2 and dropped Winnipeg down into number 3 for their loss to Montreal. Now, this is where it gets weird. Montreal keeps winning, and I keep having to keep them exactly where they are because I cannot justify moving Montreal into the 4th spot ahead of Saskatchewan while Saskatchewan's on their bye week. I just can't do that. I still think Saskatchewan deserves to be where they are. And from there, everything remains the same. I'd love to drop Edmonton for their loss, but listen, Toronto, like hanging in there tough against Calgary is one thing, but there's no reason to change. I noticed you made a move with BC. I'll let you talk about that. I can't move BC ahead of Toronto simply for beating the Red Blacks at this point, because I've already talked about what I think they are as a team at the moment, so I'm not going to get into it. So the bottom of my power rankings remain the same.
For me, listen, the top three were tough for me because I did put Calgary up at the top. I've been kind of talking about promoting Calgary the last few weeks here. Hamilton over Winnipeg. This was a big move for me because even though Hamilton won, I still am a big believer in the Blue Bombers.
Yep.
Okay? But it is what it is. Blue Bombers lost. Hamilton won. Hamilton gets the nod at 2. Saskatchewan, Montreal. Montreal could easily be third for me right now. Easily. I couldn't bump down Winnipeg that far.
Right.
And number 2 is I didn't want to bump Saskatchewan on a bye week because I've done that this year and I get eaten alive for it. So what I did was I left Winnipeg in third and I put Saskatchewan and Montreal as a tie for the first time ever, Andy.
There you go.
And again, I know Saskatchewan has beat Montreal, but
it
is what it is. Now, I will tell you this. I didn't know about the Vernon Adams suspension at the time that we did our power rankings.
No,
had I known that, I would have put Montreal in the 5th spot.
Yeah.
Edmonton, I put BC over the Argos because you know what? Riley puts up 40 points against the Ottawa Red Blacks. And if there's one thing I'm noticing from watching, I watched the highlights in that game because it was not a great game to watch live. But Riley's not getting touched as much. He's getting time to make the big play. To make the play. And again, he put up 353 yards this week. And if they can start to do this against the other teams in the CFL where Riley has the time to make plays to his receivers, keep an eye on BC. That's why I gave him the nod over Toronto.
That's fair.
There you go.
All right. What do you got for odds and ends this week?
Odds and ends. Cody Fajardo. So there's lots of talk right now. They're in their bye week. But the big talk in the bye week is, has Cody Fajardo done enough to deserve a long-term contract?
Sure. I mean, I think so. I think as long-term as you get in the CFL, really, right? Which is what, 2 to 3 years, like tops or something like that? Yeah, deal. Absolutely. I like, what's the alternative at this point? They traded Zach Collaros away. Cody Fajardo's the guy there. And
he's their only option.
Exactly. So, I mean, they can either move on from him and hope to attract somebody else or sign him. But absolutely, I think he's deserved to extend with the team for, again, as long as you really extend in the CFL these days, which is, is not really long term. There's so much turnover in the CFL. But yes, sign him up.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Vernon Adams Jr., our buddy, is getting a 1-game suspension.
Yeah, and he deserves it, right?
For a dangerous and reckless act.
Yeah.
Adam Big Hill was wrestled to the ground after an interception.
Yeah.
His helmet was tore off and then had his own helmet swung at him by Adams. With 6:20 left to go in the 4th quarter after that interception, there was a flag on the play for a 15 yards unnecessary roughness call, no ejection, which it should have been automatic.
It should have been, yeah.
Okay. Big Hill took to Twitter, explained all this, saying how could he not have been suspended? The referee was right there, which he was. Mm-hmm. My biggest question to you. It's a 1-game suspension where a piece of equipment has been used.
Yep.
Did he only get this suspension of 1 game because A, he's a quarterback, or B, because the Montreal Alouettes is being run by the league right now and they're looking for owners for this team? Do you think that has an impact on the suspension?
No, I think there's a lot of dirt there to uncover or speculate about. But I think what it is Vernon Adams is not a typical, not a player that you've seen do these things before.
It's a first-time offense.
First-time offense. And also, like, I don't think there's a huge precedent, right? Like, when I saw this, I was thinking, you know, made me think of the Happy Gilmore movie where he was the first ever player in that hockey league history to remove his skate and use it as a weapon. Well, you know, he pulled off the guy's helmet and used it as a weapon. I don't think there's a precedent for that. It may have happened before, but I think at the end of the day, that's why it's a one-game suspension, in that they didn't really have anything else to compare it to, and this is a first-time offender. I mean, I'm seeing lots of conversation about Simone Lawrence, who had another late hit on a quarterback to the head on the ground, wondering why he hasn't been suspended, because that's a repeat offender. Yeah, I think that's all it is at this point, Ray, but I think he 100% deserved the suspension. And he's hurting Montreal for this, because Montreal has shown they can't win without him playing quarterback.
Yeah, they need him on the field. But, Andy, there's an opportunity here for somebody. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a few seconds.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a few seconds. But I do personally think the fact that the league is looking for new ownership, I think they want to have the excitement of Adams in the game, and I think that did play a role in the one-game suspension.
Okay.
All
right. Yep.
All right, let's talk about the Atlantic Schooners. There is no update yet. I can tell you the counselors have not seen the proposal as of 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay. I have been in contact with a couple counselors. Now, here's my idea on this whole stadium proposal.
Yep.
It's sitting in the city's hands. We have something big going on in Canada right now, and you can start to see the election signs popping up, or the political signs popping up all over the place. You see all kinds of trash talk going on right now between
there was a debate on TV.
Yeah, the two candidates. Well, I guess there's three candidates, and there's lots of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Here's my theory.
Okay.
They're going to keep this very quiet. And in the heat of the election, maybe a week before the election, while the city of Halifax is distracted by the federal election, the municipality passes the bid and announces the move forward with the stadium while the citizens are distracted on the federal election.
Interesting. I don't know nearly enough about politics, but my thoughts would be the opposite. My thoughts, I'm just speculating here, that I don't think there's any chance we hear anything about it until new government is in place, because, and in fact, you know, I would even think that perhaps there's a freeze on decisions like this while something like that is happening.
This is a municipal
But this is
decision,
municipal. I get
not
it.
federal, right?
I get it. It is municipal. So you're right.
And municipal and provincial.
Yeah.
Right? Which there is no vote coming up for either one of those.
That is true, yeah.
So, but I'm wondering if you're trying to pass something, I know, listen, at the end of the day, from the conversations I've heard, Mike Savage wants this stadium, the mayor. He wants this stadium.
Right.
It'd be kind of sneaky to do it right in the middle of that federal election.
I hope
you'd probably get it through.
I hope that's the case, and I hope that he does want it. I just think at the end of the day, the council, like a lot of the councilors, and what you hear them say is none of them are looking for excuses to pass this. Otherwise, they could just do it. I do think there's a lot of them that are still skeptical. They need to see this, and I think Halifax is doing what it does, and it's prioritizing the things that it's looking at, and it's moving slow and hasn't looked at it yet. I hope you're right, though. I would love to see that. I would love to see them to get it done soon and pass it while the voters are distracted.
Yep, there you go.
We'll see.
All right, that's my thoughts on the Schooners, but that's all we have for Schooners this week.
All right, great.
All right, let's get into fantasy or picks. No, we're making our picks now.
Yeah, let's do our picks. So, I went 4-0 in the picks last week.
Wow.
I got my upset. You went 3-1, but you did get your upset as well.
Okay.
I'm now 37-20 on the season, 7-8 in the upsets in the
Which one didn't I get?
You ended up not getting the Winnipeg. You called Winnipeg to beat Montreal.
Right,
Remember we did the weird coin flip with the pen.
Yeah.
And ultimately that pen coin flip is what nailed you.
I knew that I got robbed on that pen flip because it didn't land on the table.
No, you're right. You're right. So anyways, I'm up on you by 2 games at this point, and we have the same record on the tie break. So you're still within striking distance. We've got a Friday game and a triple header on Saturday. The Friday game is Hamilton at Winnipeg. Huge game.
It's a big game.
Winnipeg has a sour taste in their mouth after the Montreal loss. Hamilton, let's say they escaped with a victory in Edmonton. What do you got?
Well, listen, I've already said this numerous times. I love Strevler. I love Harris.
Yep.
And what they were able to do against Montreal on the road. Mm-hmm. This is in Winnipeg. They're going to have the loudest stadium behind them. Mm-hmm. I am taking Winnipeg to win this game and show the rest of the CFL why these guys are the number 1 team in the CFL still today.
Yeah, the fact that Montreal was able to put up so many points made me consider Hamilton here, but the fact that this is in Winnipeg, I absolutely am going with Winnipeg as well. And just a reminder for this week, we need an upset from you where I need to call a lock.
Upset,
all right?
Okay.
All right, the first game on Saturday, Edmonton at Ottawa, another Western team coming to visit Ottawa. I saw an announcement earlier that the 2 quarterbacks in Ottawa are going to split time.
Split time?
Yeah. So Jennings and or not Jennings, Franklin, James.
Oh no,
no, it's Jonathan Jennings.
Jonathan Jennings and.
You know who I'm talking
about. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the guy that's been starting all the games for them. They are going to split time. So I don't know if that changes your. I'll get you the name in a second here. But
it's oh my goodness, this is ridiculous.
Listen, we're embarrassing ourselves at this point that we can't think of this name. So what do you got going? I don't know if that changes.
I'm taking Edmonton in this game regardless.
Yeah. I too.
Dominic Davis.
Yeah,
come
Dominic
on.
Davis. Yeah.
And I didn't use Google or anything, anybody.
Yeah.
I just needed it to come back. Dominic Davis.
Of course. Yeah. I too am taking Edmonton. I can't take Ottawa. I don't think ever again.
Right.
So we'll just leave it at that. I'm going to decide in a moment here whether that's my lock of the week.
Okay.
But let's move on. We got Saskatchewan at Toronto. This is an interesting one. Saskatchewan coming off their bye week. Toronto, we don't know yet if McLeod Bethel Thompson will start or if they'll go back to the hot hand. What do you got here?
Well, in the Montreal at BC game,
yes,
with Adams out.
Yes.
Would BC qualify as a underdog?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh,
okay.
My gosh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious on that.
Oh, yeah.
And even though it would, I'm not doing it. Okay. I'm taking the Toronto Argonauts over the Saskatchewan Roughriders because Rough Rider fans and I have not had the best relationship in the last week or so, and I'm sticking it to them. I'm going to take the Argos, and if the Argos win this game, the Saskatchewan Roughriders will be going in my power rankings.
All right, there you go. Well, okay, and that's obviously your upset for the week.
That's my upset.
All right, I will take Saskatchewan. I think they'll come out strong after their bye week. I just think they're a much better team.
Okay.
All right, and the final game, you just talked about it, Montreal at BC. What are you thinking here?
Well, first of all, there's no Vernon Adams Jr.
There's not.
Who are they going to start at quarterback, Andy?
Pipkin.
Pipkin?
I imagine.
No.
No?
What about our boy?
Yeah,
What about our boy? Hugo.
Ray.
Hugo Richard.
As much as I would love to see.
Hugo.
Like, has Hugo even been the number 3 quarterback yet? Like,
I don't know. But Hugo Richard should be starting this game. Let's see what the kid has. I want to see him in the game. Hugo Richard. He's the Vanier Cup MVP. Yeah. I mean, Hugo Richard.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb again, just like last time when you brought this up, and guess that Hugo will not be starting this game, though I do agree I would love to see it. I assume it's going to be Pickem. Who you calling?
I'm taking BC.
You're taking BC. All right.
I'm only taking BC because I don't know about the quarterback. If it was Hugo, it'd be Montreal hands down.
Right.
But I want to see if Riley can keep this momentum that he's had in the last couple weeks and see if BC can win at home.
Got it. I'm super tempted to take BC as well because of Vernon Adams Jr. not being there. They've proven that they really can't win without him. BC hasn't really proven that they can beat anybody other than Ottawa at this point, and I believe their other win was that Rouge there against Toronto. So I am going to give Montreal the benefit of the doubt with Pickem or Hugo, whoever it happens to be traveling to BC. And that's not an easy trip, but I will do that for the sake of potentially gaining another game on you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Want to get into fantasy, and then we will get out of here.
We'll get out of here. So
we both had terrible fantasy weeks.
Yeah, I was back to 80 points or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, and I should specify because I didn't. I will take Saskatchewan over Toronto as my lock of the week.
Okay.
All right.
So we got a couple opposites there.
All right. So I had 69.8 points on the week. Horrible. I'm at 1,229.4 on the season. I'm third place in FDS, 27th in Schooners. It doesn't even matter anymore. And somehow you ended up with 66.6. I had a look at your team. You pulled another one of those crazy moves where you left two positions completely empty. I don't know what you were doing there. So 66.6, that's 1,148 in the season, fourth in FDS, 38. Listen, anybody who tunes into this show, I hope they don't tune into us for fantasy advice. You should be tuning in to Two and Out or somebody like that for CFL fantasy advice. But Ray and I are doing our best. You want to run through your lineup for next week?
Yeah, this week, I don't even know if he's starting yet, but I got James Franklin, Andrew Harris, Stefan Logan, Jarrell Walker, Shaquille Evans, and Quan Bray in my lineup.
Nice. All right. I am going to ride the Dane Evans train. I'm going Dane Evans at quarterback. I'm picking up William Powell for the Riders as my running back, and my other running back will be Anthony Coombs, which is one of the Ticats running back by committee. I'm spending big money on Brandon Banks. I think Speedy B
you're
is
going
always
all
good.
Ticats.
I'm going Quan Bray at my other receiver and another Ticat in my flex spot, Jalen Ackland. I think Hamilton's going to score a lot of points in Winnipeg the way Montreal put up some points on them.
So you picked Winnipeg to win.
I did.
But you're going all Hamilton in fantasy.
I am.
Wow.
Yeah. Not all Hamilton, but a lot of Hamilton.
90%.
This is why people shouldn't tune into this show for fantasy advice, right?
I had $297 left over.
Okay.
In my budget.
All right. All right. Well, that's it for the show this week. Listen, I don't think that there's a marquee matchup here coming up that I'm quite as excited about as I was last week with Montreal and Winnipeg. But I'm not traveling. I'm not camping in the wilds of the Acadian Peninsula, so I should actually have some time to catch a bunch of these games this week. So enjoy the games, folks.
Awesome. And last thing I want to mention before I get out of here is on our last show, Andy, you heard me leave the CFL, Let's Talk CFL guys.
Yeah.
Since that show, all I can tell you is everything's worked out.
Yeah.
All right. Everything's worked out. Don't stop following the Let's Talk CFL guys. Everything's taken care of. And please, Montreal, start Hugo Richard.
There you go. And just on that note, because you brought it up, Ray, I will just say to somebody out there that might be wondering, apology accepted, and that's it. Have a good week, folks.
See you guys.